Now I am very excited to welcome back a man who makes it all happen at Circa Sports and the Vice President of Operations and Mike Palm. You can follow Mike on X at Mike Palm Circa. Mike, football season's almost in the rearview mirror. Man, how's it going over at the Circa this week?
Well, it's an exciting week. It'll be my 20th Super Bowl in Las Vegas. And,
Wow.
there's still groups that were coming to Fitzgerald's in 2006 for our Super Bowl parties there that will show up this weekend at Circa or the D. And, that's the thing. There's, you come every year and it's a group of 6 and a group of 12 and a group of 20. And it's always great seeing those people. And, of course, the tremendous crowds that we'll have down here on Saturday and then Sunday afternoon for the game. It's a lot of coordinating for the player parties, the A-tier player parties, the hosts reaching out, coordinating with their players. And then for the venues where we sell space and food and beverage packages, it's a lot about, yielding price and managing the inventory. And, we're getting close to sellouts now, but between all our parties, geez, I mean, we're going to have close to 20,000 people at our
Oh
properties.
my God. And of course you're almost selling out because you don't rip people off like at the strip. You guys are very fair over there and you had throwing a much better time than everybody else. Great to see you again, man. And congratulations on a wonderful NFL contest season. It's literally my favorite thing to do, man. This, especially when it comes to betting. It is the Circuit contest. There's nothing like it. It is my favorite thing to do. I love being with you guys over in August to help kick it off. And want to ask you though, what have you learned from 2025 with all these new people coming in and how big it's actually gotten?
Well, we grew it from the Survivor contest from 1,000 to 3,000 to 6,000 to 9,000 to 14,200 to 18,700. That's entries I'm talking about. Obviously, the prize pool was $18.7 million. And I think it was a good season because, there weren't a lot of people knocked out early. Like 2024 was, I thought it might really hamper the growth because 97% of the entries were knocked out by week 5 last year. That wasn't the case this year. We had a lot more players go a lot further. Of course, the key moment was that Thanksgiving, Black Friday, where all 4 favorites lost, and the field dwindled down in both contests, the Grandissimo. So you would think moving forward with Survivor, we'll get over $20 million in the prize pool next year.
Easy.
My thing is, I think Grandissimo might have over 20 million in the prize pool next year. This was our first year doing it. $100,000 buy-in, and we got 69 entries, 6.9 million, which, by the way, they all got eliminated. The 6 entries that were left got eliminated on Thanksgiving. So they split it 6 ways, over $1.1 million each. But think about in the first year when there wasn't a lot of brand awareness about what Grandissimo was. It wasn't a household name like Survivor. And we were able to get 69. Who says we couldn't get 200 next year? And that would be a $20 million prize pool as well.
Absolutely. And my friend Tony Gordon was a part of that as well. And it's so, but here's the thing. It's kind of like I told you earlier, I think it was maybe NFL week 15 when you last came on. I had one entry, got to week 9, got past like 90% of people with one entry. But would I have had the balls to pick the Bears or the Bengals? I was planning on picking the Ravens that week. And even though I knew that they were sus, but man, you almost divide the actual number of people that are going to not pick them and find out what the estimated value of that is. It was higher. It was higher to pick the Bears. The value of it was higher, right? In that situation, of course, because it worked out. But man, when I do this next year, I might have to get aggressive, Mike. I'm not gonna lie.
So we've always talked about the theory is to have multiple entries going into Thanksgiving so that you can pick a team in more than one game. Well, if you would have had 2 entries left and you wanted to split them, you would have had the Ravens and the Eagles, right? You would have been eliminated. You would have done the right thing and had both touchdown favorites, and you would have lost. I think the lesson is on the holidays, that's when you want to do the double entry and play opposing in the same game. Mm-hmm. Now, it's not going to work out as well if all the favorites win, but it worked out the exact opposite. And if you didn't have the Eagles and you didn't have the Ravens, and you had to pick an underdog there, picking the underdog opposing the team with the most entries, which was the Eagles, there's a lot of game theory to your point. There's a lot of game theory where if you can pull that off as a 7-point underdog, your value of your entry goes up exponentially.
That means every week, if let's say you decide to do 2 entries, every week you pick the same game with that entry, and you have to make 2 all the way happen, which almost happened to me. I just happened to pick a dead on Atlanta team, but dead wrong Atlanta team. But hey, man, that's in the rearview mirror. I'm excited for next year already, and I'm sure you guys got some things in mind. I always say maybe you got to add a few more to millions. I don't know if you guys are going to come up with that, but it's getting so big too that you almost want a little bit more of a spread. I'm curious to see what your changes and if there's going to be any surprises. Anything brewing over there?
Well, the biggest thing is when is the NFL going to add this 18th game? It's coming within the next couple of years. And when they do that, I do believe the players will ask for an extra bye week, and I think the owners will give it to them because I don't think it financially hurts them to spread it out over the season. That would give you 20 picks without Thanksgiving or Christmas. And I said to Derek, maybe if that happens, maybe we still keep Thanksgiving with 4 games because that makes a challenge. I just think Christmas is so hard with 2 or 3 games. And eventually there'll be a year where Christmas is on Sunday, right? And so you're not going to get that separate week or on Saturday, and you're not going to be able to divide it. We've just been lucky it's Tuesday and Wednesday. You can divide
Very
that clear.
lucky.
So I think we could go to that and just do that Thanksgiving Black Friday and still have 21 picks. That would be like the perfect world for me.
Certainly would, and I agree that would be wonderful, and they're going to get there. I agree. They're going to get there. We're just not there. They're going to knock off another preseason game. There's going to be 2 preseasons, an extra bye week, and that's how it's all going to line up. Let's talk about the Circa, man. Let's talk about the big game. What kind of parties are you guys throwing?
Well, I'm going to talk about all our properties. So let's start here at Circa right here. I'm in the offices on the 3rd level. We have the Galaxy Ballroom over here. That's our A+ players invited party. We'll have between 650 and 700 folks in that party. Then let's go downstairs to the sports book. That's almost completely sold out. There's one booth, I believe, a couple recliners and some stadium seating on the side. And then we're selling, those slot machine areas on the 1st and 2nd level that look at the sports book as pods where you could put 20 people in as well. So if you count all that, that's over 500 people will be there. Ooh. Stadium swim. Hey, Kiev, it's going to be 75 degrees Sunday.
Yes. I mean, it's so warm down here too.
70. I just came from Chicago where it was 18 and snowing. 75 degrees on Sunday. They're selling very fast at Stadium Swim. 2,500 people out there. Then if you go down the street to the D, on the 2nd floor, Bar Canada, we got 200 folks at a party. On the 12th floor, the Detroit Ballroom, 400 folks. And then the biggest party of all is at the downtown Las Vegas Events Center. That's the outdoor concert venue. And, we can get up to 9,000 people in there. I think they already got about 7,000 sold. So we'll get somewhere close to that number. So it's amazing, the coordination and the rush of people that will be down here this weekend.
Oh, it's going to be so fun. What temperature are you heating that Stadium Swim at this year?
It's really interesting. So typically in winter, because this is still winter, right? We keep the pools at 98 degrees. But now because the weather is warmer, you have to decrease the temperature in the pool. So they're debating right now whether they want to be at 83 or at 81, somewhere in that range, which seems warm, but it's really not. That feels a lot cooler.
It does.
I remember we went out there for March Madness one time, and it was very warm, and we did a hit on Decent, Derek and I in the pool, and we did a 20-minute segment. And they were doing 2 20-minute segments in a 2-hour show, one in the first hour, one in the second. And I went in the pool, and it was probably 95 degrees outside. And I went in the pool. I said, God, this water is too warm, right? And they're like, no, we got it down to 78. It's okay, And I said, no, after the 20 minutes I came out, something's wrong. You got to check that temperature. That water, I felt like a lobster boiling. And they went in and they checked it. They go, oh, man, it was still 94. I go, yeah, it was. I told you. My skin was all red. It was unbelievable. But, yeah, it's a whole science of how the air temperature is outside and what temperature you should keep the pool.
Well, yeah, I'm used to that. My wife likes to, put it up pretty high, and I'm against it. I'm like a more like an 82-degree type guy where you actually feel somewhat refreshed, jumping in that thing. But I do get the hot tub thing. It's like I've turned my pool into a huge hot tub, because we have a hot tub that spills into it, so you're allowed to do that, and that's always fun. But yeah, man, 98 degrees. I think you said 98. That is hot tub temperature, literally. So you want, it's hard to get out when it's 60 degrees outside the pool. So I've been there, done that. Tell us about squares, man. I think you guys were the kind of the first people to introduce squares, Circa squares, more fun for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we started this. I'm one of the patent holders. There are 4 patent holders on this. And we've licensed it out to other books. Heck, there's some books that have squares on every NBA game. I mean, it's run rampant. But
wow,
we've really loved what we've done with squares, and we've just continued to see that pool grow every year. I think the first year we wrote like 40,000 in bets, and now we'll be close to $1 million this year after 4 years of doing it. And people really love it. They still like to play the long shot squares, right? The 9-5s and 8s and all that stuff.
sure.
Why not? It's like a lottery ticket. And then there's some people
Yeah.
that are really serious and they come and they want to bet 1,000 on 7-3 and all that. It's fun. I mean, it's just a fun way to do it. And I mean, if you're going to go do it at a party and invest $100 to get 4 random squares, why not get to pick your own numbers?
Absolutely. Pick your own numbers. I mean, that's funner. Except getting random stuck on a 5 and a 9 or something. That's not fun unless it hits. But the way you do it is you increase the odds of the 5 and 9. You're not just splitting a $250 pot or something for $10 squares, right? You're actually making that money from it. So I agree. That is the way to go. That's fun. Well, let's talk a little Super Bowl, man. My 4.5 kind of seems pretty stuck right now in most places. What do you think about the side in the total here? I'm seeing 45.5 at some places, kind of in that nowhere land between 44 and 47, those key numbers. So what do you think about the Super Bowl?
Well, we opened 4 and got bet up to 5.5 by last Monday. And then there was buyback at 5.5 and at 5. We've been stuck at 4.5, 110 both ways since last Tuesday, and we haven't moved an inch. Now there's a couple books out here in Nevada. They're at 5, and other books at 4.5 juice to the Seahawks. So we're the best Patriots price in town at excuse me, best Seahawks price in town at 4.5 minus 110. I don't expect it to go to 4. There's a chance it goes to 5, but it's not really a key number. My dad used to say, and my dad did a little bookmaking in his own day. He used to say, the number's 5, they're begging you to bet the favorite. So just always bet the dog. If the number is 5, always take 5 in football. Always take 5, you would tell me. I think the number's about right. I do say, though, the look ahead to Seattle against Denver was 10. Okay. Seattle, Denver 10. In a game that was really a coin flip in Denver, right? That could have gone either way. And now there's a difference of 5.5 point in this line. Maybe it's a little short, maybe 4.5's a little short. I'm not sure. I don't particularly like a side. I do like the total. We opened 46.5. We're at 45, and we've been at 45 since Tuesday this week. I like it under. My theory of the game is that Mike Vrabel, with 2 weeks to prepare for Seattle, is going to take a look at that tape from November 30th when Minnesota went out to Seattle. And that was the game that Minnesota started Sam Brosmer, the undrafted rookie from the University of Minnesota, who's really not an NFL quarterback. And they didn't score a point, right? And they really didn't possess the ball at all. So Seattle had the ball all day, but didn't do anything because Brian Flores' defense came up with a plan to stop them better than anybody else did. Darnold only threw for 120 yards. They sacked him 4 times. They only had 1 offensive touchdown. They had a defensive touchdown and 4 field goals. So I think Vrabel, with all that time to prepare, is going to slow down the Seattle team. And at the same time, I think the Seattle front 4 and their secondary are so good. And they won't make the mistake that Vance Joseph did 2 weeks ago and not spy Drake May. I think they'll create a lot of pressure on May. And so my final score was Seahawks 19, Patriots 17. So an under. And let's take a little nibble on Jason Myers, the Seahawk kicker for MVP at 150 to 1.
Wow, the head of the sports book is predicting the under. Imagine that. That couldn't go so well for the prop bets, could it? Yeah, man. I actually, I'm going to give you. Well, first of all, I've already said I'm not taking a side. I actually I saw a soft three right when it opened. I just grabbed a numbers grab at 3.5. I laid 3.5. It was just a quick numbers grab because I knew which way it was going. But I don't know. I doubt I'm going to do anything with that. I'm just going to leave it probably. And it's going to be stuck in nowhere land, which is actually good for the books, having a balance between 4.5 to 5.5. I think that's great for you guys. A really good situation. And that's why you kind of brought up that 5 right there, I think, too. So that's always, there's like some hidden stuff with Mike Palm. You just got to really watch this guy over here. I'm going to go 31 to 13. All right. Because everyone's going like 27-17 and, 24-20, I'm going to be a little different and go 31-13 just because I think Seattle might be able to blow them out a little bit. Now, the truth is I struggled to put a number up because this is a historically bad strength of schedule. So it even goes away from my algorithms and things that I use on a weekly basis. So I, instead of like taking a side or even the total, I'm just going to take a bet on that, and we'll tell you what the odds are on that later. What about props, man? What's new over at Circa? What kind of betting props are you guys making over there?
Well, not a lot new. There's some really interesting ones and a few new ones. I think this is an interesting one. Which will be higher, the number of points scored or the longest field goal made?
Ooh,
I think that's it, right? That's it, because your total's 45. Is there going to be a if you bet the prop longest field goal made, it's 50.5 here at Circa. So that's a little bit of an interesting way maybe to get a lower number, especially if the game is lower. That's correlated to the field goal, right? If the game is lower scoring and there are more field goals, there's more chances to get a longer field goal, plus the total that you have to get over is lower. So I feel like that's a correlated parlay there. We did an interesting thing with the jersey number of the first touchdown score. So the whole market's at 11.5. So that would put both Walker and Njigba on the under. We put it at 10.5 and split them up. And we made it even money. Well, of course, they're all betting over 10.5. We're not going to move the number. I want to stay at 10.5. But we're up to minus 160 on the over now at 10.5. And we started at minus 110 either way. I like these over under 2.5 players to attempt to pass, over under 7.5 players that attempt to rush, over under 13.5 players to have a reception. I think those are all fun props. Total number of punts in the game, over under 7.5. Total number of sacks, 5.5. Total number of interceptions, 1.5. I like over that, and that's plus 108 right now. Over 1.5 interceptions, plus 108. I think that's an interesting number as well. And then there's largest lead, which the standard number is 14.5, but you can bet the alts on that too, right? 10.5, 18.5, 21.5. So all interesting stuff.
Are these all you're betting, or these what you're making?
Well, we made these numbers, but I'll be looking for them in other markets because I can't bet here, right? So sometimes other markets, there's more than we offer too. So obviously, it's a fun game, and people say about the rise of props, and years ago it was the Super Bowl. You got all these props, and that was it. Now every game has a bunch of props, right? And the primetime games have any more. Hell, hockey and basketball, we write more on props than the side and totals now, Kiev. It's especially the NBA. And I believe the reason is because the generation of fantasy football players who bet on players and not teams is now old enough to bet sports. And they've continued that pattern. Maybe it's because of the transient nature of athletes. You don't stay with one team anymore because athletes move around. And hell, in college, the teams recreate themselves entirely every year. So maybe those are all factor. But I think daily fantasy is the reason why props are such a big part of our business now.
It's huge because daily fantasy, you're looking at a cornerback that might be out, and you're going to know that because of your fantasy game. And why not double cash in on that by taking the prop? And that's what I've been, decent at. I'm more of a weekly fantasy player, but I have done some DFS stuff. It's just DFS has gotten really convoluted with algorithms, and people with thousands of entries and stuff like that. We can go have a show about that. But the truth is that is a great point. And the younger generation has really gravitated towards props, which is cool. But it really all started here in the Super Bowl. And some of the props I like is Sam Darnold over 5.5 rush yards. This is the Super Bowl here. He's not going to want to make a mistake right away. If nobody's giving him anything, I think he's going to take off for one. Now, another interesting one is people say over rushing attempts for him is 2.5. Well, if he takes 3 knees at the end, that sure helps, because that's the only time that they actually call that a rush is when it's a knee, and they'll take a yard away from you every single time to do that. So keep that in mind too. If you're stuck at 6 yards with Sam Darnold, you better be biting your nails, because it'll go lower than 5.5 if he's going back and taking knees. Always one of those weird caveats. Kenneth Walker, I don't like his rushing prop, and that's already been hit down. I was kind of worried about that. I was mad that it happened because I wanted to wait on that one. But I'll take his over 20.5 receiving yards, because I really believe that they're throwing to him more often. And I really think that he's going to be still a part of this game. But I also think that Vrabel is going to really stack the box here and try to at least stop that and make Sam Darnold beat him. So that's my little game theory kind of coming into this one. Total New England players to have a rush attempt over 3.5. I think you mentioned over the total 7.5 for both combined. I kind of like that too, Mike. And I also think at plus 140 here, this is the Super Bowl. I'm sure they're going to do an end around or something a little bit crazy with a tight end. You saw Belichick's teams do that, and Vrabel's the coach now, and this is plus 140 in some books. I like that. Any like specialty or exotic props you're looking at, Mike?
No, that's about it. I did take May. I thought the adjustment on May rushing yards was a total over adjustment because of the Denver game. Sure. I got him under 39.5 rushing yards at one book here in town. I mean, all year it's been 15, 16, 17, and he had one game against Denver, and all of a sudden you think, he's going to have another breakout game. But that's the props I talked about so far are what I bet. Now we still have another 3 days to keep looking at stuff, and maybe something will catch my eye.
I will have to re-listen to that part and write them down. I do like that May one, because you're right. Not like Seattle's not going to be prepared for this. Let's be serious here. McDonald's been a very good coach here coming in. I actually like the total accepted penalties under 10.5 here. And I like that because I believe the penalties the refs are going to swallow their whistles. So total accepted penalties under 10.5 is kind of what I'm looking at, Mike. Sean Smith has went down in his penalties. In the bigger games, he also has went down. His accepted penalties per game is around the 9 mark. And I think that being that this is a Super Bowl, he's not going to want to make it about him as much as maybe a Carl Cheffers might or a Hussey might. I think that Smith is going to be a little bit more timid here, in my opinion.
Sean Smith is a very interesting story, and maybe for a different podcast. But here's the guy that was in the Big Ten as a back judge for 1 year and suddenly got into the NFL. Amazing. I mean, this story was written many years ago about him doing a Super Bowl.
I'm sure it was. And we could also talk about that as well. Here's a dumb one I saw put up by a book, and I have an even worse one. Which backup is mentioned first, Drew Lock at plus 150 or Joshua Dobbs at like minus 200, right? I mean, I grabbed Drew Lock at plus 150, and maybe they're going to say, oh, Drake May might be hurt. We'll see if Dobbs is ready. I guess that's the whole lead into that. But Drake May's not hurt. He played the whole game last year. That's a terrible talking point, and I think that you're just as inclined to mention Drew Lock. There's a very low limit on this bet, Mike. It's nothing.
Yeah.
But I just want to throw it out there. Why would it be so much Josh Dobbs and not Drew Lock? Because Drew Lock, I believe, has some roots out there too, if I remember.
He does. He absolutely does. And yeah, that should be much closer to a pick 'em. I agree with the bad number there that you've spotted.
Yeah. And so MVP, do you like? I mean, to be honest with you, it's going to take a lot to say that that Darnold or May's not going to be the MVP. But have you looked at that market? Are you combining it with anything?
I took the long shot with Myers at 150 to 1. I think there's a lot of value on Darnold plus 120 and a team that's a 4.5 or 5 point favorite. I mean, that number should be minus 110 or lower when you have that kind of a favorite with the quarterback. And I don't know if people still doubt Sam Darnold. I think he answered a lot of questions with his performance. And if you look at both quarterbacks in the playoffs, Darnold's been a lot better than Drake May. Drake May was a one-read quarterback the entire game against Denver. He could never get through his progressions. I thought he showed much more signs of panic than Darnold did.
Man, normally I love that field goal kicker MVP. We're gonna hit it one of these days, Mike. We got like 30 years left in our lives. I think one out of these 30, we might have to grab it, my friend. Here's a terrible. Okay, let me ask you this: Smith-Njigba plus 550 for MVP in some books, right? I don't know what Circa's throwing there. Is it probably close to that plus 550 for MVP?
Yeah, I think we're 6-1.
Okay, 6-1. I think the real number is 8-1 or 10-1 personally. But here's the thing. Wouldn't it take Smith-Njigba to record at least 100 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns to make MVP? Isn't that fair to say?
And on top of that, Darnold has to do nothing with anybody else. It's how do you get him to be what Darnold throws 3 interceptions and they still win, and Smith-Njigba has 2 touchdowns and 200 yards. I mean, there's a lot more than just what he has to do. Darnold can't be great. If they're going to give it to a quarterback first. It's very hard to give a receiver and not look at the quarterback.
Absolutely. It's very hard. But here's what's stupid about this. There's a combination in one of the 2 most popular books in the country for, statewide betting, right? That has Smith-Njigba to win the MVP with 100 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns for 30-1.
Well, how
the way
could he
I
win
look
it?
at it, how can you win it without it?
You can't win it without him.
Right? Okay, win it without. You can go to one of those books right now and find that. And I just checked it again before the score. It is still at 30-1. You can't win it without 2 touchdowns and 100 yards. I'm sorry.
If the MVP was 6-1, that bet should be 8-1. You know what I mean?
Right? Are you kidding me? That's true. And so there's some stupidity you got to find also in these books, my man. Gatorade, anything with the Gatorade? I don't usually get so much inside information on that, but I think orange is the best next to purple.
I never think about it because we don't book it. So we don't book it. In any of the states we're in don't allow it. So we don't book it. I never think about it.
Before we go, any long shots that you like? Any fun Super Bowl big payout type situations?
Not that I'm looking at betting. I just think the guy that walked into the Tuscany, our book at the Tuscany in August, and bet $100 that the Patriots would beat the Seahawks and will win three. He will win $310,000 if that happens. It's incredible. Now he's got to be gathering money to bet the Seahawks, right? He's got to lock up some kind of a winner on this. I mean, and we got the opposite situation where the guy that bet all the Seahawks props. How do you like that? You got 75-1 at 50,000, and you're a 4.5 point favorite. You can get almost 2-1 back on the other side. He locked up $2.6 million. Very well done.
Just like we called it before the season, right? Forgot to bet it, I guess. No, I mean, it's Jesus. See, I mean, what's funny is you kind of look at the Patriots schedule and you're kind of like, duh, that could happen. And then you think about the Seahawks defense and all the guys they have, and you just saw Darnold win 14 games. Duh. It's always like one of those no duh moments when you look at this stuff. But my long shot is the exact score. Why the hell not? At 150-1, 31 Seahawks, 13 New England. And what the hell? I just wanted to be different. It's going to lose most likely. But at 150-1, this is where you have a little bit of fun in the Super Bowl. And if you're one of those bettors that says those are bad bets, then don't ever freaking have me catch you buying a Powerball ticket or a Mega Millions ticket, because that's what this kind of stuff's all about, Mike.
Sure it is. It's about your entertainment dollar. And that's why I bet Jason Myers at 150-1. I had bet both kickers in the Rams-Patriots Super Bowl a few years ago, and that game was 3-0 going to the fourth quarter. I had a huge shot to win there, and one was 150-1, one was 200-1. I was having the time of my life sweating that game.
Mike, like I said, in 30 more years, I swear, one at a time, me and you are going to be betting the kickers every single year, and we're going to get one. But you know what? For the next 30 years, I'm definitely going to be frequenting myself over at the Circa Las Vegas. Mike, could you tell our listeners and viewers where they can get your great information?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. You can follow me on Twitter at Mike Palm Circa, Poker Mike 73 on Instagram, and then I appear on VSiN several times a week. Wednesdays on Follow the Money, Thursdays on VSiN by the Books, Fridays on Money Moves, and with Matt Humans in the afternoon on Prime Time. And then starting this Saturday, I've got my own radio show in Chicago, 8 to 9 a.m. Central Time on The Score.
Oh,
Palm Saturday coming up. The great Pat Foley, Hall of Fame NHL announcer for the Blackhawks, will be my first guest this Saturday.
that is wonderful. I didn't know you're doing that. Well, God, I've been Score listeners since the early 2000s, late 90s. Are you kidding me? That is amazing. Make sure you guys check out the best vice president in Vegas in Mr. Mike Palm.
Kiev, thanks for the time, buddy. I always appreciate it.